we are on, Sarah Jenkins. Here we are, girl. Back for another episode of the Two Broadcasters. These salty broads are back at it. A day after Valentine's Day, by the way, Sarah. And if you notice, I'm sporting like the still Valentine vibes. Okay.
I love it.
Purposefully wanted to still wear the red. I wanted to bring the love. I'm trying to keep that flow going. Listen, for a gal who's got nothing going on in terms of a romantic love or whatever, didn't matter. Yesterday, I sent out so many I love yous to people that I got love bombed the entire day via my texting. And it was great. Awesome. And then when I was making dinner, the doorbell rang and I'm like, what? Okay. Thought maybe it was the little neighbor kid who he's like the community builder. That's what I call him. He randomly comes to your house and gives you things. Aww. Adorable. So I thought maybe it was him. But when I turned the corner and I saw a person standing there, this handsome young man, and he had what was flowers in his hand. And I thought, oh, okay. My little heart just kind of started to race. And then I went, easy, Lauri. Like, who literally is sending you flowers? Okay. And then I thought, oh man, wrong house. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to have to try and get him to where he might be going. I opened the door and it was for me. And it was a gal I work with. She sent me this gorgeous bouquet and she was on, a friend of hers delivered it. And so she was on FaceTime so she could see me when I got the flowers. And it was so sweet. And this card, face, the whole deal. And I really started to cry. So there was that. So anyway, I had a great day. I had dinner with Dad and my brother. And I was just in a love kind of mood, you know? And I'm just going to stay rolling with that, Sarah. All right.
All right. I love it. Go with it.
And I know that you had a lovely evening with our friend Brian. Okay. Just a nice dinner at home, which is
quiet
fantastic.
Dinner at home. I was out all day yesterday. I had to teach my nutrition class yesterday. So it was good to just stay in and not try to get out in all traffic and crowds.
I can't with the whole everybody going out to eat on the same day. That's never been a good move. But to keep in the theme with the love, I'm just going to use that as a segue because somebody I love is joining us on the show today. And so excited that it's ridiculous because I have not seen her face in too many years. It's probably been since I don't even want to say this right now. I don't know. It's probably like since 2017 or 28, just something bad. Okay. And the thing of it is we used to see each other a lot. And so to set this up a little bit, Karen is somebody that I met she is another person who was trying to talk to people in our communities about things that we had researched and that were important. I believe we met at the Legislative Plaza, if I'm not mistaken, and we linked up and we sort of grabbed arms and we kind of became a duo. And we were fighting Common Core. And Karen started Tennesseans Against Common Core. And I kind of, we just were on fire about this not happening. We spent tons of time talking to the public, fielding emails. We were getting calls. Karen, we had tens of thousands of people on the email list. And, it didn't work out. Okay. But we became very close friends. And I think we both just felt like, we got somebody to do this with. We would meet up there. And we also would just do, other legislative bills that were sort of terrifying. But I will just say that Karen has my utmost respect. She is probably one of the best researchers that I have ever met. She is more tenacious and more sacrificial in trying to share information that she feels strongly about, that government's just getting one over on us left and right, and she just brings it. And she has dedicated hours and hours and hours of her life to things that she feels like us citizens need to know. And I've just never quite met anybody so willing to keep it up as I have Karen. Karen currently has an organization that she founded called TNCSS, which stands for Tennessee Citizens for State Sovereignty. The goal of that and the function of it is to support legislation that could help in helping to get to where we can nullify unconstitutional laws. And so that needs to be sort of a thing that goes into place so that many issues can be thwarted, because that's exactly what's happening. So that's a noble cause. Nullification is just something that people act like it's a foreign thing you just cannot do or whatever, and it's absolutely not true. So that's a really great cause. And issues, where that can affect, or some of the issues that she's really on, are things like the gold and silver being legal tender, real ID, and local property taxes. And I just, the thing of it is she's just got a heart of gold and a great mind, and she saves documents and goes from original resource material all the time. So anything you hear today from my friend Karen Bracken will be something that she can back up with original content. And so without further ado, my friend, it's so good to see you. Karen, thank you for coming and sharing your time.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been way, way too long. And yes,
100%.
We haunted the halls of the Capitol in Nashville for several years. We started out, fighting Common Core and some other educational issues. And the two of us always went in together visiting legislators. I know we had one very heated meeting with a legislator where Lauri almost went across the desk at him.
Oh, oh man. Man, I would love to have seen that.
Listen, I got to be honest. Yeah. We went in there with the utmost respect to everybody's offices. Karen's rolling in with almost like an equipment cart of files of original documents, legislative bills from other states, federal stuff, the whole deal. And we could probably write a book, and maybe Karen, if you ever lay this down low enough, we could jump into that. But we got close enough into the legislation fire that, we became very privy to a lot of the shenanigans that were going on up there. And I mean shenanigans that we heard right in front of us, that or legislators that, sort of thought we were really onto things and, used us for information and that kind of thing. They would share with us room dealings going on and stuff. And then there was a whole other bigger contingent who thought, just what's the tinfoil hat thing and the blah, blah, blah. And it was just, sometimes it was just too much, and, but we stuck it out. It was an like I said, we just were never short of being flabbergasted, I think, on some of the hubris, some of the last minute shenanigans, the bait and switch, whatever. Okay. The syndromes, watching the people that were paid to come in on buses that were supposed to be the people that were against the thing. And you just knew there was nothing organic about any of it. We just listen, ladies and gentlemen, we learned a lot. Okay. And we fought a good fight. Meanwhile, Karen's out there still fighting the good fight for Tennessee, and she's a treasure to Tennessee. And I wish more people really knew about that, but they will. Maybe we'll write that book, Karen. Okay. So I'm going to set up just real quick, Karen, because you got a heavy conversation to bring us today. One of the things both of us had done a lot of research into was a thing called Agenda 21. I learned about it through learning about homeschooling. I just kept going down this sort of world organizational rabbit hole that led me to all sorts of places. And, when I learned about Agenda 21, it was already well into the, no one was really talking about this since it was all signed off on in 1992. And so when we started, we were talking about it was just in the early 2000s. So many people clearly had no idea. And so I used to speak in the States sometimes on this issue. I know you did. And the other buzzwords were happening, and there were words like a lot of it was surrounded around green spaces, green this, green that. There were people wanted to give grants both to local municipalities as well as the states to try and onboard people to sort of give up some of the rights to public spaces, all kinds of things. But no one was really, it was really hard to explain this to everybody. And then you started hearing about ICLE and the smart cities and this, that, and the other thing. And again, people looked at us like we had 16 heads and, but there were some people who got pretty riled about it. I think now though that they're much more, they're a lot braver about being out with all this stuff. And I think part of that is just that, people are that much more indoctrinated in terms of being scared of the climate control and all this kind of thing, because this stuff's going. So what we're going to talk about today are some people's notions of how we're going to live is really what it comes down to. And it changes names sometimes. I mean, it went from Agenda 21 to 2030, and then it kind of went into a great reset. They're all relational. They're all just kind of bait and switch. And now it's kind of like a 2050. They keep missing the mark a little bit for some stuff, but there's actually smart cities that are up and running and have been for a while. There are other cities who are targeted for it. And so this is probably a little heavy for some people if they're not aware of any of this stuff. But I think because I feel certain that there's still so many, and maybe you'll disagree with me, Karen, but I still think there's just still most people are not privy to what this is about and how it affects us. And I know how they sell it. And so most people could hear how they sell it and think, well, what's wrong with that? That makes sense. That's logical, this, that, and the other thing. So you're going to be here to tell us. And actually, you're coming loaded with an actual presentation, Karen, to help visually with this.
Well, 13 years ago, Representative Sheila Button, of course, I live in Tennessee. Aside from Common Core, basically everything I do is for and in the state of Tennessee. Common Core was more of a national thing where I worked not only in Tennessee, but I worked with people all over this country that were trying to fight Common Core. But about 13 years ago, Representative Sheila Butt and Senator Mike Bell, who are both no longer in our Tennessee Assembly, actually sponsored a bill for me against Agenda 21 in the state of Tennessee. And I don't know, Laura, you're probably not aware, but about 2-3 years ago, that very same bill finally was passed. The only difference was sustainable development and net zero were added to that bill, because back 13 years ago, net zero wasn't even heard of. I mean, that didn't even start coming around until 2015. So, but anyhow, they passed that bill. And we find that Chattanooga, a lot of people don't know that Chattanooga, a city here in Tennessee, was one of the original 19 beta sites for Agenda 21, right here in the Bible Belt of the South.
Sure.
And their mayor is working and has already divided the city up into 6 sections and blah, blah, blah. And they also became a park city, which is an agenda proposed and pushed by the United Kingdom to basically make your city into a park with no roads and no cars. And what they really don't know is you won't be able to go in the parks either, but that's neither here nor there. So this is already happening in Chattanooga. And I actually put together a presentation, 2-hour presentation for the Attorney General's office. And I also did the same presentation for the Comptroller's office because Chattanooga was in violation of the anti-Agenda 21 law that was passed 2 years ago. And although they agreed that Chattanooga was in violation of that law, the law just did not have any penalties attached to it, which, as you know, so there was
Sure.
no
The
enforcement.
no
There
teeth
was no
laws.
enforcement. Right. Which I know myself when I used to write legislation way back when in the Common Core days, I would put a penalty in it and the legal department would remove the
Of course.
penalties. So we don't like to write bills with penalties, So yeah, just a little bit of history about.
In other words, you can't do it, but you can.
It's like a pacification thing to a point, but it's kind of another hoodwink. But in some cases, it does help set a precedence to come in for something else. That's what you hope for.
Well,
that's
like
what
you said, the shenanigans, these are just the shenanigans that take place and that you have to put up with, in government.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So do you want me to fire up this beautiful presentation?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah. And
all right, ladies and gentlemen, get your learning mind on. We got some stuff.
And for those who are not watching us on YouTube, if you're on one of our audio only platforms, please feel free to check it out on YouTube so you can see this wonderful visual that Karen has put together. But everyone should be able to hear this and
good move,
along.
Sarah. Right. Good move to plug the fact that we are on YouTube now, and you need to subscribe there, okay? Because we've been incognito for years, and we are just now busting out of the cave. And please go over to YouTube.
Out of the cave.
Go over to YouTube and help a broad out by subscribing. This one will be worthy of you wanting to go over there for too. So good point, Sarah.
Yeah. Right, well, it's a great visual. So everybody should go check it out.
100%. So we're bringing in the great visual now, the great visual.
There we go. Here we go. And we're going to talk today about C40 cities, or what you may know them as 15-minute cities. I call them 15-minute prisons because that's what they eventually will be. And if you look into Baines and Oxford in the United Kingdom, they're already doing this. You have to get permits. You're only allowed to leave your jurisdiction, a certain amount of times throughout the year. There are zones where they fine you if you drive a car through them. I mean, it's craziness, but
it's nuts.
It is the plan. So this little picture here, 20-minute city, this is an actual sign of a new development called June Lake, and it's located in Spring Hill, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. So they're actually building a 20-minute city right there. So, and it all sounds great, and it is a great concept. If you want to live in a walkable community, that's great. The problem is eventually you're not going to be able to walk outside of that livable community. That's the goal.
Well, and the other problem, Karen, is they're forcing people into these livable communities.
And they will, yes, eventually.
Correct.
It will. So just to go through a little history of the C40 initiative, back in 2005, it was a C20 organization, and it was founded by the mayor of London, King Livingstone. It's funny how so much of this comes from the United Kingdom. Ken Livingstone convened representatives from 18 megacities to forge an agreement on cooperatively reducing climate pollution and created the C20. In 2006, the C20 steering committee invited a further 22 mayors to join, ensuring balance from the global south, creating an organization of 40 cities, and thus the name C40. That year, President Bill Clinton's climate initiative became our implementing partner on world-class climate action projects. And in 2007, the mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg, hosted, he had a lot of influence in Common Core and the data collection piece of it. Yeah. He hosted the second C40 summit where 36 mayors actually came together. and had a meeting. 2008, the mayor of Toronto, David Miller, was unanimously elected chair by the C40 Steering Committee and led broad efforts to build climate action through peer-to-peer knowledge sharing, including climate action planning, buildings, transport, energy, and adaptation. And in 2009, the mayor of Toronto and C40 chair David Miller convened C40 member cities at the 2009 UN climate talks in Copenhagen, where cities gained lasting global recognition for their leadership in real action on climate change. And then, of course, in 2010, good old Michael Bloomberg shows up again. He was elected the chair of C40. During his tenure, he pioneered C40's data-driven approach, and I highlight that data-driven approach because he was very influential in the data collection piece of Common Core. So that's why I kind of highlighted that. Okay, this is the actual manual, The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5 degrees Celsius World, C40 Cities. And a lot of what we're going to talk about in the next few slides come directly from this document. Okay, C40 is a global network of nearly 100 mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis. And I put there is no climate crisis. Mayors of C40 cities are committed to using an inclusive, science-based, and collaborative, not true, approach to cut their fair share of emissions in half by 2030, help the world limit global heating to 1.5 Celsius, and build healthy, equitable, that's a key word right there, and resilient communities. Equitable meaning that, no one can have any more than anyone else. Everybody has to be equal. C40 supports mayors to do this by raising climate ambition, and I can't really see the bottom there because of the arrows, building equitable and thriving communities via global and regional programs, building a global movement through robust international advocacy and diplomacy, scaling up climate action, facilitating access to finance for investment in green jobs, basically redistribution of wealth. And these are all just a bunch of warm and fuzzy words in this document that really don't mean a whole lot. In the United States, there are 14 C40 cities. And this is a list of them. As you see, Los Angeles, gee, isn't that funny how Los Angeles just burnt down? They are a C40 city. And I'm surprised that Chattanooga isn't on this list, but these are the 14 cities that are officially members of C40. Okay. The C40 document covers 6 consumption categories, and we're just going to talk about 4 of them today. There's the category that addresses food, buildings and infrastructure, private transportation, aviation, clothing and textiles, electronics, and household appliances. Yeah. I don't know.
They're
if you can
talking
see
about
this.
my
This
shirts.
is-
I can't take it.
Okay, this is the slide on about food, and it's kind of small here, but basically it covers 3 different categories: dietary changes, reduce household waste, avoid supply chain waste. And it has 2 sets of targets: progressive target in 2030 and then the ambitious target in 2030. And believe me, it's the ambitious target that they're really after. 16, the progressive target is to limit the consumption of meat to 16 kilograms of meat per person per year. The ambitious target is 0 kilograms of meat consumption. The progressive for dietary change, 90 kilograms of dairy consumption, milk or derivatives equivalent per person per year. And of course, the ambitious target is 0. Whoops, what happened there?
Oh no,
is
mine blanked out for a
0
second.
kilograms. So the ambitious targets here so far is they don't want us to have any meat and they don't want us to have any dairy, which means protein, no protein. The calorie intake, 2,500 kcals, which are basically the same thing as calories. It's just what they call them in the United Kingdom. A 50% reduction in household food waste, and then of course, 0 household food waste. I don't know how that happens, but and then we have 50% reduction in the supply chain food waste, and the ambitious target is 70%. And I have a little
So
note here, just like CO2 is the foundation of all life, meat and dairy products are also an important source of good health for humans. Replacing real food with fake food will breed poor health and early death. And I just have down here that 16 kilograms, where you see 16 kilograms of meat per person, that equals 35 pounds of meat per year per person. Okay, just because, just so you kind of can equate that to the understanding here in the United
yeah, it's not
States,
even a
what
pound a
16,
week.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
right,
mean, to be able to do this, Karen, they're literally going to have to allocate rations of food.
yeah, right. And
Okay, just so
it'll
we're clear.
be, and a lot of it's going to be, made in a laboratory kind of food. Bill
100%.
Gates has invested a lot of money into that.
Sure.
Now, understand this chart comes directly from this booklet that I told you about. I didn't make this
Yeah.
chart up.
Karen,
Okay.
could I ask you a
Uh,
question really quick? About the meat in the United Kingdom. So I've heard in some places, you get a lot of information coming in that they are already implementing this in certain ways in the UK. I
mhm.
was just in the UK again back in October and speaking with a friend of mine, and she was unfamiliar with it as of yet. But I understand that this is sometimes being linked to some of the like the digital ID things, or sort of like a social credit type thing. What do you have any information on that? Can you clarify some of this info? Because there's a lot of people talking about a lot of things regarding this and the UK right now. So maybe we could clear up some things because I feel like I'm confused too.
Right. Well, I mean, there is the goal of creating a digital ID, and the real ID, which was just pushed upon us. Basically, the real ID was made federal law back in 2005. And it took 20 years. And believe me, the states have been pushing back for 20 years. Trump comes along and pushes it and says, okay, as of May 7th of 2025, everybody has to have a real ID or you can't fly, which was a lie, number one. Number two, real ID is not mandatory. There's 5 states that do mandate real ID, but the rest of the country, it is a voluntary program. You do not need a real ID to fly. You can have a regular state issued driver's license, and there's 16 additional backup documents that you can use along with your state driver's license, like a passport or a passport card. But there's 16 alternative pieces of identification that you can use in combination with your state driver's license, and you will be able to fly. You can fly if you don't have any identification. They just put you through the ringer. I mean, like, say you go to the United Kingdom, or say you go to Florida and you lose your wallet, or your wallet is stolen, and all your identification is gone. You can still fly to get home. Of course, they just put you through a lot of rigors. So what people need to understand is the real ID is a federal identification. Your picture on that ID is a biometric picture. The real ID will eventually be mandatory. It will eventually be digital, and it will be the digital ID for the United States. That's why my group, TNCSS, we have legislation this year to protect the citizens of Tennessee against mandatory real ID and a bunch of other stuff associated with real ID. The other thing with real ID is right now, you only need real ID for 3 things: to fly commercially, to enter nuclear facilities, and some federal buildings. They're the only three places that you really need a real ID. You also do not have to be a US citizen to get a real ID. A lot of people think that a real ID assures that, only citizens have the real ID, and that's not true. Um, but at any time, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, can change the official purpose of a real ID with the stroke of a pen. They do not need any congressional approval. So this is the caveat here with the real ID. And I hate to get into all of this. We're kind of getting off into the weeds, but the SAVE Act that they're pushing right now, I totally agree with about 95% of what's in the SAVE Act. But there's an issue in the SAVE Act that concerns me because they say they're going to create a federal ID for voting based on the same requirements as real ID to ensure that only citizens vote. Well, if it's based on the same requirements of real ID, it will not protect us from non-citizens voting because non-citizens can get a real ID.
Mm-hmm.
So my other thing is, well, gee, why would we create a new ID when we already have real ID? So my gut tells me what's going to happen is they pass the SAVE Act, and then they say, well, gee, you know what? We don't have to create a new ID to vote. We'll just use real ID. DHS will come along and just add an additional requirement to real ID to vote. So now people like myself who refuse to get a real ID will be forced to either have a real ID or not be able to vote. The reason I'm getting into all of this is because eventually it's going to be, you're going to need it to get a bank account. You're going to need it to get a loan. You're going to need it to buy a house. You're going to need it to buy a gun. I mean, they can change the official purpose for the real ID at any time for any reason. So now we get into the social credit score, the monitoring of people through, the monitoring of people through.
The UK was saying, you got to get it or you're not going to get a job.
But as far as the meat, but as far as the, like, talking about the meat and the dairy and those things, and what is happening in the UK right now, my understanding is some of that is already being implemented. And that there is, and it may not be widespread, but I mean, are you aware of some of that already going on where they are being sort of limited, or they're trying to kind of put some of that through? Because that's what I'm hearing, but it's kind of fuzzy as to what's actually happening.
There's a lot of countries that have already implemented a real ID. And, when you go to the grocery store, and if they say, well, you can only buy 16 kilograms of meat per person per year, when you go to the grocery store, and once you get past that allowable limit, they, the cashier will say, well, I'm sorry, you can't buy this meat today because you've already exceeded your limit of meat per person per year. So there's a lot of things there's a lot of things that are going to be able to stop you from buying because of the digital ID, digital currency, which they're pushing. Once all that happens, they're going to have complete control over everything you do, everything you buy, what you can and cannot buy, what you can and cannot eat, where you can and cannot live. There will be a social credit score, just like they have in China today. Is this all going to happen tomorrow? No, it's been happening for many, many decades, and it's going to take many, many more decades, to accomplish this. But there are countries that are already doing this and monitoring what people are buying and stopping people from buying certain things. So just hasn't happened.
And a lot of times
Yes,
they just supply the supply and demand thing they're controlling too. So it just sets a precedence for you can't get it. get people being used to not being able to get things and
Right.
stuff like that. And my friend in the UK says the UK is literally in the toilet. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
completely toast,
Yeah.
and
Well,
by the way, anybody who lives there, chime in to one of our platforms. Let us know what's
Please.
going on in these areas where this stuff is. Like, I know Paris isn't. We have listeners in Europe. If
Yeah.
anybody has something they can weigh in with this, please, we'd love to hear it. All right,
Yeah.
all right, Karen. And ironic that they, the food, the food's kind of a big deal, right? So, if you're into
oh,
a
yeah.
document that's bragging about how great all this is going to be, to live in a park and be able to just walk everywhere and say, but you're going to be rationed food, somehow just does not equate in a good sphere for me. All right. But this is in their own documents. So
Well, and just as a
Mhm.
side note, looking at your chart, Karen, it also makes me wonder. You talk about lack of protein, so we're talking about weak people, but what are we being rationed? What is this food that we're getting? And it's 2,500 calories a day. That's a lot of calories for some people. Some people don't need that many calories per day, and it's like, so we're weak,
Mhm.
unhealthy, and some people may be obese because of it, because they're getting too much food. It's
well, that's what
very,
crickets are for, Sarah.
very
All right.
creepy and controlling, and yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Crickets
People
have high
should be
protein.
alarmed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was
That's
very high myself.
it is, yeah.
And if you do pull up this document, it goes into great detail. These are the charts, but there's also great detail into how these charts were created. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you really want to get into the meat and potatoes of why and how they came to that 2,500 calories and 16, it's
Mm.
the details are in that document. I just, we'd be here for 15 hours if I went through the details.
We'd
Our head
lose
would
our
be on fire.
minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that, they say this is the progressive and ambitious. The ambitious target is really what they're after. That is
Mhm.
really what they're after. So, no meat, no dairy. And when you think about the fact that there's a war against farmers, especially in Europe, and in the United States too. But that kind of all plays into, hell, if we get rid of all the cows and we get rid of, that there isn't going to be any more meat or ability to provide dairy.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So this one is really interesting. This is private transportation. And there's three categories here: reduce ownership, optimum lifetime, and material efficiency. And the first one says it all. The progressive target is 190 vehicles per 1,000 people. The ambitious target is 0 private vehicles. Now,
Okay.
what I said when I saw this, well, gee, what about electric cars? They're pushing us to get out of the gas cars, and they're pushing us into electric cars. But this says they don't want us to really have any cars.
Correct.
It doesn't
It's
say
the slow drip thing again. Yeah.
right. It doesn't say 0 gas fueled cars. It's just 0 private vehicles. 20-year, the progressive target is basically to own a car for 20 years. The ambitious target is 50 years. But again, if their progressive or their ambitious target is 0 private vehicles, well, who the heck cares how long it lasts? You're not supposed to have any, right? So,
It makes no sense.
telling
This
you right
makes me want to
here.
go buy more vehicles right now. I want to have a whole yard full.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where the old Klaus, you'll own nothing and like it, is pointing right at all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's a 50% reduction in the use of metal and plastic materials. I don't know. Are they going to build cars out of wood? What are they going to use? So,
I'm scared for it.
That's a real eye opener. And this is aviation, reduce the number of flights. And then we have sustainable aviation fuel. The progressive target in 2030 is 1 short haul return flight less than 1,500 kilometers every 2 years per person.
Come on.
The
I hope you don't have
ambitious
relatives
target,
far away.
the ambitious target in 2030 is one short haul return flight less than 1,500 kilometers every 3 years per person. And then, of course, 53% sustainable aviation fuel adopted or other equivalent low carbon technology or fuel. They want it reduced by 53%. That's the progressive target. And the ambitious target is 100% sustainable aviation fuel adopted or other equivalent low carbon technology or fuel. And who the heck knows what that is? And just for the sake of less than 1,500 kilometers equals 900, it's less than 932 miles. Okay, so it 1,500 kilometers sounds like a lot, but when you equate that to miles, it's less than 932 miles in that short haul flight.
Karen, they're already starting to do this in Europe. There are places who are already starting to limit how much you can travel.
Right.
So stay put and cut you off from everybody.
Yeah.
So this is
It's
the
like
last
COVID. We
one
got ready
of the
for it.
four. This is the last one, and this is clothing and textiles, and it's reduce the number of clothing and textile items, reduce waste in the supply chain. And the progressive target is 8 new clothing items per person per year. The ambitious target in 2030 is 3 new clothing items per person per year. So you buy 3 pairs of underwear in a year, you're done for the year.
You better watch your weight. You better not have that weight flux.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
your kids
word.
better not grow. I mean, heck, we know kids. I mean, it's they grow like weeds.
Just, we talk about feudalism all the time on the show recently, and it's like we're back to the peasants. Wear your rags, patch them up, and walk around. We'll bring back the nudist colonies because that's what you're going to have at this point.
Yeah.
No cars, no clothes, no food.
No food.
My hair is on fire
Right
now.
I mean, welcome to the world, folks.
Listen,
well,
check, please.
The depopulation effort has been going on for a long time, and
exactly.
They have great plans for reducing the population, and they have. There's a thing called it's a NSSM 200, better known as the Kissinger Report from 1972. And if you read that report, right in the very beginning, it says that if we don't do something about population growth by the year 2000, we will hit 8 billion people in the world. We did not hit 8 billion people until 2022. So I read that, and that says to me that in 1972, they already started slowing, because they weren't off. They said by 2000, we would have 8 billion people. They weren't off by 22 years. I believe they did what they could do starting then to lower the population, because we didn't hit that goal until 2022. And they weren't off on their numbers. If they hadn't have done something, we probably would have hit 8 billion by 2000. So let's see here. Okay.
It'd be easy to get in the weeds there, but we won't.
Oh, yeah. Should we trust the C40 agenda? These are the different groups that support and finance and support, the C40 15-minute city agenda. Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Hewlett Foundation, ICLEI, Google, Bloomberg, the World Bank, GCOM, World Economic Forum, FedEx, the UK government, the US government, the United Nations, Open Society, George Soros, just some of the people supporting this. Major funders: Open Society Foundation, which is George Soros, Hewlett Foundation, and the UK government. funders, Google and FedEx, some city partners, ICLEI and GCOM. ICLEI is the International Council for Local Environmental Issues, and they work Agenda 21 at the local, city, county, state level.
And they're everywhere.
Okay, oh yeah. Partners, Clinton Foundation, the World Bank. While there are 144 member countries of the C40, the Global Covenant of Mayors, that's that GCOM that you see up there under city partners, the local covenant of mayors for climate and energy has mapped emissions inventory for 13,200 cities as of February 8th, 2026. There's 180 US cities have been mapped by GCOM. Do you believe the names listed above are working for the betterment of society or their own bottom line of greed, power, control, and depopulation? The Global Covenant of Mayors, as of February 8th, 2026, there were 185 American cities being monitored by GCOM. 3 Tennessee citizens are being monitored by GCOM: Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. Not a surprise. GCOM has connections and collaborations with the United Nations and its agencies. Michael Bloomberg is one of the 2 chairs, and ICLEI is a partner. And these are just some of the actual mapping that takes place. These are just, they give the cities badges. You can see there for mitigation.
Oh yeah, participation ribbons.
Oh,
this is fantastic.
We get little badges.
Oh my gosh.
Badges. And it has the country where Nashville is located. It's got the population. It's got the mayor. It's got the annual greenhouse gas emissions, blah, blah, blah. So this is just some of the mapping that takes place.
Can I just say that Global Covenant of Mayors sounds like a cult? Can we just all take note of that for a minute?
Oh, it's a cabal.
Sounds like a cult.
Listen, no doubt. And by the way, if anybody is starting to think about data collecting and listening to this, you're starting to really track on the right track of transportation there, because that's what all these things that they want to implement will require. It will be a necessity for all the data and the ID and everything to be linked and everything to be monitored. So go watch Minority Report again. Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, it's it's all the data centers. They're creating. They're building them in every city, every county, every state, all over the place. Lauri, you can remember when we fought Common Core, we used to tell the data was one of our biggest issues. They were collecting mounds and mounds of data on our children, and we used to say data is the new gold.
Yes,
it is the new gold.
Been pounding it for decades now, and people are still just no, and
I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to hide. That's people say that, and it's no, you may not have anything to hide, but you're missing the point of why they're really collecting all this data.
Exactly.
Right. And I'll insert this here, Lauri, since we've mentioned Palantir a few times lately. Just a super quick side note. So Discord, which is a popular community, app that people use, is actually now doing age verification. As of a certain date, you have to verify through their AI system that you're 18 years or older in order to use the app. And they're going to be using a company that is partnered with Palantir. So speaking about data collection and all of these things, it's coming, and it's not the first, company to do this. So there's a lot of these online things that are now starting to do age verification. And so you don't know, and they came out saying they were going to use one company, and they're actually using another company that is, like I said, a partner with Palantir. So it's just be careful out there, because this is, like you said, it's the gold. The data is now the new gold. So,
and our current president is all about it. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, talking about Palantir, which is owned by Peter Thiel,
Yeah.
and he's deeply
We just
embedded
love him. Not.
deeply embedded in this administration. Peter
Mm-hmm.
Thiel, JD Vance was Peter Peter Thiel was JD Vance's mentor. He mentored JD Vance while he was in
Fantastic.
college,
Wow.
and he gave JD Vance his first job. Now, my question is, Peter Thiel is
Uh,
gay. Peter Thiel is gay. He's married to a man. And my question is, why would somebody like Peter Thiel zero in on mentoring some redneck hick, JD Vance, who was nobody from
She said it.
nowhere? Why would somebody like Peter Thiel go after this college kid and mentor him and give him his first job? That I don't get that. I could
I
see if
smell
it was a kid
grooming.
at Bill Gates. Huh?
I smell grooming. No
I don't
idea
know
how
what
they
it is.
met or whatever.
well, and
I
Rand Paul has been associated with Peter Thiel as well, another famous so-called conservative. So I mean, the smoke and mirrors and all of the just
yeah.
propaganda and manipulation, and yeah.
So I mean, again, the idea of a 15-minute city sounds great to a lot of people. I wouldn't want to live in it, but there are people, especially the younger people, who think this is great. And that's how they sell it to you. This is utopia. But utopia, if you look it up, it means the end. So,
It's the
okay,
fact.
so
And
let me
the
go
other
back.
fact is, Karen, we've always had that as an option. Manhattan is a 15 minutes. I can walk anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that lifestyle. Like when I was in
Yeah.
Athens, Greece, I was like, yeah, I could live here. I could have a thing. I wouldn't need a car. You know what I'm saying? I go
Right.
and do my thing. Everything's close enough. This, that, and the other thing. I mean, they have always existed. And this is the thing. They take what's already there, and then make it turn into, you said it, they're going to be 15, 20-minute prisons instead of an
Right.
optional
And
way to live. Urban life
right.
has always been an option.
And we're already seeing that in the United Kingdom. So, it's everything kind of starts there and filters its way down. So, in the end, basically what this means is we're going to have a total loss of freedom in which the government will control what you eat, what you can buy, where you live, if you can have children, and even how long you can live, who you can talk with, control over every human activity. And this is what Agenda 21 is all about. It
Mm-hmm.
is the
Yeah.
total control of all human activity and the destruction of private property. You will own nothing and be happy. And when you do not comply, you will be exiled from society. And this will not happen overnight. It has been creeping for decades. You will be tracked and monitored 24/7. Look at all the communities right here in Tennessee that are putting in license plate readers and cameras, and all for your safety. We're
Mm-hmm.
watching everything you do and everything that goes on with all of these street light cameras, license plate readers. All of this stuff will have the ability to hear and watch everything you do and who you do it with. C40/15-minute cities is unsustainable, unconstitutional, and unlawful. It is all about isolating people, restricting mobility, freedom, liberty, and choice. It totally violates our God-given human rights. Climate change, global warming was the global boogeyman they created to drive fear and compliance. Because basically, if people really knew what was behind Agenda 21 and all of
Mm-hmm.
these little programs, they would never have bought into it. So they had to create a global boogeyman, something that affected everyone in the entire world. Well, that's
Exactly.
climate. That's
Exactly.
climate.
That's it.
Okay. So this is something, it's from a speech that a guy by the name of J. Gary Lawrence gave at the UNED/UK blah, blah, blah seminar back in 1998. And this guy, J. Gary Lawrence, he was the director of the Center of Sustainable Communities at the University of Washington and the chief planner in the city of Seattle. President Clinton's Council on Sustainable Development, he was part of that. And he has a 20-year career in pushing UN Agenda 21, sustainable development. And this was his statement. In the case of the United States, our local authorities are engaged, and I have this full speech that he gave. In the case of the United States, our local authorities are engaged in planning processes consistent with local Agenda 21, but there is little interest in using the local Agenda 21 brand. Participating in a UN advocated planning process would very likely bring out many of the conspiracy fixated groups and individuals in our society, such as the National Rifle Association, citizen militias, and some members of Congress. This segment of our society who fear one world government, he didn't say that one world government wasn't true. He just said this segment of our society who fears one world government and a UN invasion of the United States through which our individual freedom would be stripped away would actively work to defeat any elected official who joined the conspiracy by undertaking local Agenda 21. So we call our processes something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. So basically he's saying,
Yep.
there are people who have kind of caught on to what they're up to and that we would fight against it. So they have to call it something different. And they keep changing the name
Of course.
as people become, find out what's really going on, it gets a new name, just like Common Core,
Yep.
when we fought Common Core, what did they do? All they did was change the name from Common
Yep.
Core to something else, but the standards still exactly were the same.
Exactly.
So, this is basically telling you they're lying to you to push their
Yes.
agenda. Okay. So before the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, I don't know if you know about them, but the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, there were the 8 Millennium Development Goals. That was under the original Agenda 21. And they were supposed to be achieved between the years of 2000 and 2015. That didn't happen. So then in 2015, they came up with these wonderful 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Basically, this is what is driving everything that they do. And here are the 17, what they tell you it's all about, and then what it's actually all about. So if you look at Sustainable Development Goal number 1, no poverty, what it really means is a welfare state, severely reduced population. That's how you get rid of poverty. We create a welfare state and we reduce the population.
And there's your equity.
Yeah. Oh, that's around.
There's your equity.
Number 2, zero hunger. What it's really all about is GMO foods, Codex Alimentarius. You have, let's look at number 4, quality education. Mass indoctrination is what it really means. If you look at sustainable cities, that's number 11. Sustainable cities and communities, prison cities is what it's really all about. So this is just what they say they are, and this is what they really are.
The reality.
Sustainable Development Goals. Yes. Okay. And this is interesting. The University of Tennessee, Knoxville. This is right from their website. UT engages the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I can tell you that the University of Tennessee, Knoxville has, I believe, still has Rosalind McEwen, who is a UN secretariat working at that university. And back, I think it was 2002, she created a document called Education for Sustainability Toolkit. And it was a complete toolkit on training teachers to make sustainable development the top priority in education. And if you read that document, there's a section in the document that actually says people who are better educated generally make more money and use more resources. People who are less educated make less money, use less resources. And if you read the whole quote verbatim, she's basically saying we have to dumb down the people, dumb down education so that they make less money and use less resources if we're ever going to obtain sustainable development. And that's right in the document. I have a copy of it. And this came from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I mean,
Well, it's been happening. It's in full force
yeah.
of it being obvious.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What is, you talk about sustainability, but they never tell you what they consider to be unsustainable. And I think this is important. Private property. This is listed in the Global Biodiversity Assessment Report. I have a copy of it. It's 1,100 pages. It's huge. It's not even a normal size book. I think it weighs like 20 pounds. It's huge. And in that document, it talks about reducing the population down globally to no more than 1 to 2 billion people.
Wow.
And all through the document, it talks about what is considered unsustainable. Now, I have a document where all of these things, I have the actual page number in the document of where you can find them. Because when I used to do presentations, I used to bring all these documents with me. I would put a table in front of me. They would all be laying out there. And when I would be talking about the Global Biodiversity UN, here's the book right here. Here's where it's all tabbed to show you what I'm saying is actually in these documents. Okay, so private property is unsustainable. Population growth, human population density is unsustainable. Consumerism, unsustainable. Paved and tarred roads, highways, railways, grazing animals, cows, horses, sheep, goats. And this is not about cow farts, people. Modern farm production systems, fencing of pastures and paddocks, building materials, human-made caves of brick and mortar, concrete and steel. That's our
Caves?
houses.
They're literally using the word caves?
Caves, but I take that to mean our houses.
Yeah.
Right. Farmland, pastures, rangelands, and we see this war against farmers globally already, even taking place in the United States. Floor and wall tiles, harvesting of timber, we see that. Logging activities, modern attitudes toward nature, Judeo-Christian Islamic religions, unsustainable. Land use that serves human needs, dams. Hey, they're blowing up dams all over the place. California's been fighting it for years. Dams, reservoirs, straightening of rivers, fossil fuels used for driving various kinds of machines, economic systems that fail to set a proper value on the environment, and inappropriate social structures. And I'm like, I have no clue what they mean by that.
A bridge?
Like, what are inappropriate?
Social
structures?
Oh, social structures.
I don't know.
Is that churches? That's the first thing that went through my
churches,
mind.
community centers.
Community centers, yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
art, probably everything art.
Right. And who determines what's inappropriate, So that's just a list of some of the things that these people consider to be unsustainable. And I can see, you can see that it's being pushed, a lot of this stuff. And again, this is our little picture of Spring Lake. Welcome to your 10, 15, or 20-minute city. The mayor of Chattanooga said, yeah, we're making a 15-minute city. And if I can make it a 10-minute city, I'm going to.
Wow.
And they have very close. I have a document signed between the city of Chattanooga and the World Economic Forum. So if you think they ain't here in our backyard, right here in Tennessee, think again.
Yeah.
And this is all the stuff I brought when I did this presentation. 2 hours I sat in front of these people, showed them all documents. There was nothing they could say, because I showed them all the proof. The largest promoter of 15-minute cities right now is the C40 Cities initiative. The 15-minute city concept was started in 2016 by Carlos Morena, but the concept was tried many years ago in the Soviet Union and failed miserably. There's a book called The Ideal Communist City. I have a copy of it. It's a book written in the late 1950s by Alexei Gudinov, and members of, where are we here? Oh, this thing is moving all on its own. And members of the architectural faculty of Moscow University. And basically, the ideal communist city is the 15-minute city. That's exactly what it is.
We're circling back.
We're circling back.
Yep.
We're going to try it again.
Yep.
It didn't work the first time, but it might work now. Let's just go again.
Well, we'll do it better. We'll do it
better.
Than Russia.
What were they using when they didn't have climate to blame?
There's communism. You'll do it or we'll kill you.
Or we'll kill you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring this little urbanates. It might be a word that a lot of people have never heard of. I'm sure you've heard of Patrick Woods and technocracy, the technocrats, which are people like Palantir and Elon Musk and stuff like that. Elon Musk's grandfather was one of the creators of technocracy in Canada. He was actually exiled from Canada because they feared he was trying to take over the government and replace it. But that's a whole nother story.
And I'm sure he was.
Wow.
Yeah, this is Elon Musk's grandfather, the father of his mother. So Urbanates, Technocracy Inc. from the 1930s created the Technate, a North American union, including Greenland. Ring a bell? What's President Trump trying to do? Get Greenland. Very strange. Who put that bug in his ear? Once the Technate was created, their plan was to create Urbanates. The description is exactly the same as the 15-minute city. Exactly. They call the Urbanate a resort with no cars needed. And they also believe that it was easier to create an Urbanate from the ground up rather than try to retrofit. And this kind of made me think of Los Angeles. They burned down that place. And now they're going to build it back up. I mean, there's only been like 2 houses rebuilt since this thing happened over a year ago. That they want to actually make Los Angeles a 15-minute city or an Urbanate. Technocrats believe that rather than trying to solve all these problems within the framework of the existing cities, it is best to start with a clean slate and construct Urbanates when needed. And I have think Lahaina, think LA County, think North Carolina. North Carolina, where the Hurricane Helene hit and devastated, that whole area is so rich in minerals. And the big guys have been trying to buy up those people's property, just like Lahaina, and they weren't cooperating. So gee whiz, what a coincidence.
I wonder if Trump's Gaza playland will have cars.
Who knows? These plans never go away. They just get renamed.
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
The 2015, the 10, 15, 20-minute cities are cropping up all over the world, even in the very red state of Tennessee. They sugarcoat the concept, and once in the trap, over time, moving outside of the city will become more restrictive. Of course, they deny this. Well, just go do some research on what's happening in Oxford, Baines, United Kingdom, and Chattanooga, the USA. The mayor of Chattanooga said Chattanooga will be a 10 or 15-minute city. They also plan to make Chattanooga a national park city. That has been accomplished. They were approved as the first American city to become a national park city.
What?
Yes, that was done, I believe, April of 2024.
Wow.
It was recently. Yep. They all Chattanooga was once one of the original beta sites for UN Agenda 21, blah, blah, blah. And they also have a working relationship with the World Economic Forum.
Of course they do.
Yes. So those license plate readers they are installing for your safety are really creating your carbon footprint. The street lamp cameras being installed for your safety are to monitor your movements, what you say, who you associate with, create a social credit score. Exactly how many crimes have been solved or prevented in your community because of LPRs, license plate readers, or street light cameras. You might want to find out because that's how they're selling them. They're going to fight crime. Okay, I know that's
Mm-hmm.
not what they're all about, but how
Mm-hmm.
much crime has really been solved by using these
Mm-hmm.
things? And I put here those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And that was from Benjamin Franklin. And this was 19, I love this picture. These are the security cameras in 1960.
Oh.
Now, I am going to be 77 years old in April. When we were growing up, nobody locked their doors. Well, everybody's doors were unlocked. And if you did anything wrong in the neighborhood, there was a mother somewhere that saw it and ran right to your mother and reported what you did. You know, that was the
Oh,
security cameras. And I
yes.
love, right.
Yeah.
I
My
love, I
grandmother
love
was a
this.
neighborhood watch woman.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
we
Oh,
had
yeah.
Carol across the street. Loved Carol. She was fantastic. And I tell you what, when my in the summer when I was out of school in high school and my parents weren't home, I better be on my best behavior because anyone going in and out of that house, anything happening, if she saw it, my parents got a phone call. Let me tell you.
Yeah. It was a
Oh,
community that
Yep,
cared about watching their
absolutely.
community. And by the way,
Yep.
I don't know if anybody noticed because I didn't watch it all, but I've read since the amount of ads for the Super Bowl, hardly any of them were about anything to do with a product you would buy. They were all
Yeah.
geared towards
Mhm,
tech
mhm.
stuff. And one of the ones is, I don't know what it's called or what have you. So sorry, but it's basically taken the Ring camera thing, which it's astounding how many people have those. But taking the Ring camera thing and it's a whole nother, and they're selling this as, watching out for people's pets who get lost. Okay.
Mhm.
Sure you are.
Well, the 15-minute city smart city agenda is the plan for the urban cities, but it is also part of the Wildlands Project, which is the plan for the rural communities. 15% of all land will be sealed off from human presence, and an additional 25% will be buffer zones and will have very limited human presence, and the remaining 25% will be closely monitored and will be where human settlements will be set up. And this is factual information that I could give you, show you several documents that, you know, prove that this is the plan. These will be 15-minute cities and they will be extremely crowded. This will decrease safety, increase crime, mental illness, and disease. If you live on the rural land, you won't. If not for the efforts of the late Dr. Michael Kaufman, who I knew, and he was just a wonderful man, he basically stopped this treaty from being ratified in the Senate in 1993 because he took that global biodiversity document and dissected it, and he came up with a map, and I'll show you that. The Convention on Biological Diversity was opened for signatures on June 5th, 1992, at the United Nations Conference on Environmental and Development Rio Earth Summit, which brought us UN Agenda 21, and it entered into force on December 29th, 1993. The United States is the only UN member state that has not ratified the convention. That doesn't mean it has not been implemented over the years, because it has. And the reason that we did not ratify that convention was because of Dr. Kaufman and his presentation to the Senate before they voted. And again, we know they never give up. They just keep plugging away. And if they can't get things ratified, they always work around the system to get what they want. This is the map that was created. And in this format, it's really kind of hard to see what's going on. So what we have here is a reversal of the colors, just giving you different colors. Where you see the green is where humans will be allowed to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And it's basically the same as this, but it's just a little easier to see the limitations on, human habitats.
Yeah. Yeah, and Karen, we recently had Claire Dunn on the show, and I know she has been speaking because she does a lot with farmland and farmers, and she's been speaking about the preserves that they're already implementing in parts of the United States. And it's like what you're talking about, where it's not even for hunting, it's not for, they call it a wildlife preserve,
Sure.
but it is, like you're saying, for where no one will be allowed, basically just returning it back to the wild to keep off it's just it's their ploy. It's one of the ploys. It's where they're easing this in to squeeze people out of all of these areas and push people into, like you're showing us right now, these various zones.
And I even saw it in the outskirts of Nashville when they were coming in and extending greenway spaces theoretically for biking and this, that, and the other thing. And I watched it go from, okay, they've got that going on. And then in a few years later, that everything is so grown up, you can't get to it. So they let they don't mow it. They don't have paths to get to it. So like all these, if there's a creek involved, the water thing, if there's a river or a creek or whatever, they made it seem like, yeah, this is going to be great. People can walk and bike right along the creek, blah, blah, blah. And now you literally cannot get to them. It's so overgrown. And that's just
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, that's just an example of how they sell it, but then what really ends up happening with it. And we've got to stop falling for the first thing of the sale pitch that we hear. We just have to look a little bit deeper into examples that we can all already see have never been what they originally sold it on.
Right. And they want to do away with cities and counties and states, just like the EU, it's just one big happy family of all these countries. In Tennessee years ago, they had tried to create a 16 county region across 3 state lines, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And I organized teams in all 3 states, in all 16 counties, and we fought that. And we went to everyone. I don't know if we fought that. We went to every meeting, and I mean, it was just an amazing effort. But we know they never go away; they just go underground. And basically, when the planners left, or these people that were trying to implement this left, they said to me, we've never had such pushback any place we've gone. And I said, well, if you try it again, you're going to get the same kind of pushback. And I mean, I could go on forever, the things that we did at those meetings to shut them down and to stop them. I don't know if you know what the Delphi technique is, but I was trained on the Delphi technique when I worked. And so I knew it as soon as I saw it. And I also worked with Rosa Corey and some people out of California who had created, ways of fighting the Delphi technique. And we implemented those techniques and we shut them down. We shut their meetings down. We shut them down. That regional plan never got approved, but it also never went away.
Sure.
So we're just doing it, in different ways.
Delphi back at you.
Right. And while they were trying to do that, 16 counties, my county was one of the 16 counties, and they were going to take the plan to each county, and each county would have to vote on it. And then, of course, once that happened, the plan would be implemented. So I actually ran for county commission, and I won that race just so that I could be on my county commission to not, to fight a vote in my county for that plan. So sometimes that's the stuff you have to do.
Yeah. And Karen, for any of our listeners, can you briefly tell, it's not hard to describe what the Delphi technique
The
is? 'Cause I
Delphi,
think,
Yeah.
the Delphi technique, right? The Delphi technique is basically coming into an organization, whatever it may be, with an already created plan and making the people think, driving people to your already created plan, making them think it was their plan. This is what you wanted. And that's what, and again, I was actually trained on this because I did this in a job that I worked. And it wasn't to push anything bad. You can use the Delphi technique for good things too, but unfortunately, they use it pretty much today for bad things. But that's what it is. I come into a neighborhood, I say, I already have the plan, I know exactly what we're going to do. And now we phrase the meetings and the questions and the surveys and all that so that it always turns out that, gee, Willikers, the people want exactly the same thing as the plan we already
Mhm.
created.
They make you think you're partnering and
That's a
everything.
form of
Yes.
gaslighting, I would
Was
just like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say.
it is.
yeah.
It
So
totally
for
was.
people listening, like, hey, that's gaslighting in
Was
pure
that a
propaganda
CIA
form.
thing? Was that a CIA thing?
It was the Rand Corporation created it
Rand.
for the military.
That's right. I'd
Yep,
forgotten.
yep,
Hmm.
yep.
Very good.
So
Okay. Thank
basically,
you.
so basically, bottom line is stacking and packing people into their 15-minute city to keep people from traveling, socializing, being monitored. No cars. EVs are not even going to be an option. Any normal person can afford, and they know it. The war is not against fossil fuels. The war is against mobility. They do not want people moving around, talking to one another. It's the ideal communist city coming to the entire globe. Ask yourself, how do they propose to fit all the people of the world into 25% of the land? They won't. It's called depopulation.
Hmm.
And what can you do? There's just, a few things. This will be a slow creep. It's been creeping since the 1970s. You got to get educated. You have to be involved locally. There is no silver bullet. It stops when we stop it. Tennessee slowed a huge program because of citizen engagement, and that's the 16 county regional plan that I was talking about. Attend your local school board meetings, city council. Don't, I can't, oh, I don't have the time. Yeah, you have the time just to spend 3, 4 hours watching a football game or attending a football game. It used to infuriate me when I would drive past a football stadium, even at a high school, and it's packed with people, but nobody has any time to go to their school board meetings or their city council meetings, county commission, form a group, get one person to go and take notes and come back and, inform the group. Run for office yourself or find like-minded candidates to support. Know the red flag words and organize to stop it. It is much easier to stop it before it gets approved. There's also things like ouster, recall, if your state has recall, going after a county commissioner's bond if they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. This is kind of an old slide, but it's just being engaged, knowing what the heck is going on in not only in your community, but being able to read between the lines. My mother used to always say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Hmm.
So anything that they're pushing in front of you, me, I go into these meetings and I feel they're going to lie to me. They don't do anything anymore for the good of the people. They just don't.
Mm-mm.
And that's at all
No.
levels, all levels. And if you own nothing, can you really be happy? And that's the end.
That
Yeah,
was
I was just
fantastic.
having that conversation with my youngest son the other day, Karen. And trying to help him understand as a young 13-year-old man that the way things are now, the government, it's always under the guise of it's for your own good, it's for your safety, it's for, this is what we're told. But the government does not, it's not ever for the benefit or the good of the people. It is always for the benefit of the government and the larger entities that are over the government, these corporations and elite structures. And it's never for the people because they thrive on power. And then there's the whole money wheel that spins around. And
Right.
yeah. So,
well, the thing is, another thing too, is that our education system is so lacking. Read and understand your U.S. Constitution and your state constitution, especially Tennessee. Tennessee has one of the best. It's really better than the U.S. Constitution. It is the only state constitution that was actually ratified by the federal government because it was so closely representative of the U.S. Constitution. It's the only state constitution that was. And get familiar with these documents and research the original intent of our Constitution, because our government has twisted the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment does not guarantee citizenship to every person born on our soil. The 14th Amendment was in reference to the slaves that were freed in the 13th Amendment. Mm-hmm. So the 13th Amendment freed the slaves. The 14th Amendment made them citizens and gave them due process. And the 15th Amendment gave them the right to vote. These were the three Reconstruction amendments dealing with slaves. And there's a document called the U.S. Senate debate of 1866, because the 14th Amendment was passed in 1868. But they debated the 14th Amendment, what it was, what it meant, blah, 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 blah. Everything in there pertains to the 14th Amendment and exactly what the 14th Amendment was all about. And it clearly said, if you're born on our soil, you are a citizen as long as your parents are citizens. It says it right in the document, right in the debate. It also, if you read the 14th Amendment, where it says you're a citizen if you're born on our soil, naturalized, or subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And that's one little piece of the 14th Amendment they never talk about. You are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States if you are a citizen of France. You are subject to the jurisdiction of France. You can't come into the United States and kill people. Okay, I mean, you're subject to our laws here, but so again, it's people let the government tell them what the Constitution means, and that's the last place you should be going to for an interpretation of the Constitution, because our government thinks that the Constitution is a living document. It changes with the times. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It changes via the amendment process. That's it. It doesn't change with the times. And that's why I created Tennessee Citizens for State Sovereignty. And a lot of the issues that we're fighting, you have groups that are fighting 12, 15, 20 different issues. They never accomplish anything. But if we could get this nullification process bill in 2021, our Tennessee legislator with a supermajority passed SJR 9005, supporting the concept of nullification. Now, what we did was we have a bill that puts together 5 different ways in which to invoke nullification. This is going to be the 5th year we're trying to get that bill passed. They say they support nullification, but now we hand them a way to invoke nullification, and they're fighting the bill. Our Attorney General says that the bill violates the Supremacy Clause because the Supremacy Clause says that the federal government is always supreme over the state. Au contraire, it does not say that. And this is just another Attorney General that's what I call constitutional illiterate. The Supremacy Clause says that federal law trump state as long as it's in pursuance of the Constitution. So basically, if a law follows the Constitution, it is the law of the land, because the Constitution is the law of the land. But if it violates the Constitution, it is null and void of law, and therefore can be nullified. And nullification is just simply the state saying, we will not comply with an unconstitutional treaty, international agreement, regulation, rule, mandate, law. And Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution lays out the 18 enumerated powers that we gave to the federal government. If it ain't in there, they don't have a right to do it. And you don't find education in there. You don't find environment in there. You don't find, most of what our government does today is authorities that were never given to them via the Constitution. So to me, that's one of the most important things you can do, is be knowledgeable about the original intent of the Constitution. And it takes a lot of work and time and research and study. So
I thought the Constitution was just to be able to write executive orders.
Yeah, well, those people
Seems the only time we ever hear about it.
Executive orders are supposed to direct the agencies of the executive branch in the implementation of past constitutional law. That's what an executive order
It's very
was
narrow.
supposed to be about. Yes,
Yeah.
very narrow. And people
No,
just think,
listen,
like
I need stuff named after me.
Yeah, just like
You mean
like
they're
they think that
misusing
the
it?
Supreme-
No way.
Yeah, well, just like they think that the Supreme Court, I have something right here. Just like they think that the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of the Constitution. No, it's not. No, it's not. And Mayberry versus Madison. Read Marbury versus Madison. It clearly says in there that the Constitution is the law of the land. And when they had the recent hearing on the abortion, when they overturned the abortion thing, Justice Sotomayor, during that trial, basically said that there was nothing in the Constitution that gave us the final word on the on what is or is not constitutional. They just kind of gave that to themselves. And then she's not even a conservative justice. But
and she was almost like, whoops.
Oh yeah. And believe me,
Someone forgot to give her medication that day.
Yeah. But it says the states, being the parties to the constitutional compact and in their sovereign capacity, it follows of necessity that there can be no tribunal. Okay, that means a court or forum of justice above their authority to decide in the last resort whether the compact made by them be violated, and consequently that as the parties to it, they must themselves decide in the last resort such questions as may be of sufficient magnitude to require their interposition. And this is from James Madison. It says the powers delegated by the proposed Constitution are few and defined. Those that are to remain in the state government are numerous and indefinite. And that's from James. That's from James Madison. But basically, this statement here by James Madison says that we are the judge of what is or is not constitutional, not any tribunal. So, I mean, there's just so many statements by our founding fathers that support the act of nullification, and
so much of it.
Anyhow.
I mean, we only hear about the ones that are used to exaggerate based on court precedents. Now that's the thing. Well, the court precedents is ever changing, and you never hear about anything. It's as though the 9th and 10th Amendments don't even exist. All right. And that's where so much actually is, because it's numerous.
Those
Yep.
are the most
And-
important, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and
some of
it's
the
what
most
it's what
important,
Karen's talking about.
Yeah,
You know, it's what it
it's-
starts to get down to. When it's not in here, it gets down to there or there. You know, and it's just
Well,
it's
precedents,
sad how illiterate
precedents and
it's bad.
precedents
It's
and
just bad.
court precedents and court cases do not override the Constitution. And when these lawyers, oh well, you know, they don't teach constitutional law in law school anymore. It's all case law. Oh well, case blah blah
I know.
blah says this, and case, I don't care what case blah 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 says. The Constitution says this. And law, what they're doing is they're running this country via British common law. That's what precedence is all about. It's British common law. I think we ran away from British common law, didn't we? But, you know, precedence does not override the Constitution. It is the law of the land. You know, just like taxation, we're only supposed to be taxed whatever monies it takes to implement and support the 18 enumerated powers that we gave to the federal government. Everything else belongs to the state. I think it's like 70% of the money that we send to the federal government is to support unconstitutional agencies.
100%.
You know, and when you look, I have a condensed list that we put together. There's 18, but you can kind of condense them. It's tax, spend and borrow, regulate interstate and international sales, make rules for naturalization and bankruptcies, coin money and punish counterfeiting, establish post offices, patents, copyrights, trademarks, weights and measures, create courts below the Supreme. You know, the Constitution only requires one court, the Supreme Court. All the lower courts were created by Congress, and Congress can shut them down. They can consolidate them. They can determine what cases they hear. They can defund them. We could do away.
They can do
with
favors
all of
for them. Yeah.
We could do away with all of the lower courts, because at one time we didn't have lower courts. We had the Supreme Court, and that was it. Create courts below the Supreme Court. They can, and I just wrote in here, they can also repeal all lower courts. Rules of war and the U.S. military, right to make laws governing government land and property. And that's another thing. They're not allowed to own. The government owns. So, I mean, I think Nevada, I think it owns like 99% of Nevada.
Yeah,
they're not supposed to, it's a violation of the Constitution for them to own land for things that are other than government use. So this is it.
Well, listen though, Karen, I think they've got a whole lot of things going on out there in Nevada. That it's not to say that they're not using it. We just might not be able to see it all.
Yeah, right. That's
insane.
Too.
I mean, literally, this place, it's so many things would not be so divisive if they were just in their lane. They've been out of their lane for, and I submit, for 100 years plus. I mean,
oh, absolutely,
100%. So this whole, well, if my guy or if your guy, stop, I can't with that. You don't get it. This has been an infectious problem for the disease has been here for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And because we ignore it, and because people get dumber and dumber and dumber, we can get tricked easier and easier and easier. And so they have more and more bravado and hubris, and quite frankly, in your face, screw you. I mean, we're literally at that point now where it's just like, this is what I want. Give me that executive order. Get that. Okay. And they all use it. And people think, well, next time my guy's getting in, they ain't going to be doing it. No, your last guy did that. Everybody's guys doing that. All right. There is no guys who aren't going to do this. That's what I'm saying. Because unless we wise up and we do the kinds of things, Karen, that you've been doing for so long, and we fight this stuff locally, and we know what we're even looking for, there's no next guy, my guy.
They're not our guys. They're their own guys.
They're bad guys.
They're banker guys. They're not our guys.
Super bad guys. All of them. The whole lot of them. You know, and the whole federal. No, but there's no justice system. Is a joke. is a complete joke.
Yeah.
I mean, we have it in our face right now that we don't have to abide by the law if we're in the club. It couldn't be more in your face right now. Meanwhile, we still got people getting picked up left and right for stuff that just, but over here, you know what I'm saying? No, go ahead and have islands of sex trafficking and complete and utter, just ridiculous,
Depravity.
hideous,
Depravity. Yes.
just satanic. I can't take it. Right? No, but that's fine. Go ahead. I wasn't there. You weren't there. We weren't there. They're all bad guys. Okay. I'm just saying I have like zero trust anymore because it's very clear that it is a total, Sarah, that's it. We are living in that kind of elitism and peasantry situation here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whether your pocketbook tells you that or not, pocketbook, that was my grandmother's thing. She called her purse a pocketbook. What?
Yeah. I grew up with that also.
That's a retro word. But you know, unless you think you're making enough money that you don't feel like you're a peasant. No, you're a peasant, or you're a peasant in the making. This is what's happening. I mean, the middle class is being just destroyed right now.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and that's always been part of Agenda 21 in the UN was to destroy private property rights and to destroy the middle class. They want to get back to the two-class system, you know, the elites and the slaves.
Yes.
And, you know, that's what they want. And, you know, the sad part of it is one day they're going to accomplish it because it's so far down the road. I mean, you know, when you have people who don't even know their own founding documents, and when people are dumbed down and they don't know their rights, they are easily controlled. And that's why they dumb down the education system, you know, because you're easily controlled. It's people like me or people, not just me, I mean, there are other people that, you know, take the time to understand really what we're entitled to as people of a country, you know, and that's just it. The government said that, you know, the 14th Amendment, you know, oh, really? Okay, you're going to listen to the government, or rather than the people that wrote the freaking documents. Why don't you listen to them? I put something out the other day about the SAVE Act and this Real ID part that I'm really concerned about. And this guy writes back, well, Grok says you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I came back and I said, well, you can tell Grok to go Grok itself, because here it is. And I cut it out right from the bill. Here it is. Do you know, he still insisted that Grok was right and I was wrong. I said, so you're going to tell me that you believe this Grok rather than the actual excerpt that I copied from the actual law? I mean, like, this is what you're dealing with.
I know.
This is what you're doing. You know, it's my explanation of the difference between being stupid and being ignorant. Stupid people, you can never change their mind. I don't care how much proof, documents you show them, they will not budge. An ignorant person is just a person lacking in knowledge and is generally receptive to knowledge. And when you give them the knowledge, they can change their mind. They can see things from a different perspective. And it's those people that you need to seek and work with. The stupid people, when you know you're dealing with a stupid person like this guy that's throwing me Grok,
Grok a shite.
Ignore them. You know, that's it. As soon as he did that, I'm like, conversation over. This guy's stupid. You know, no matter what I do, I'm wasting my time. They're the people, when you've identified somebody that's stupid, you got to just move away from them. Don't waste your time, because people go, well, I can't get him to change. I said, you know, if you show people the truth, the facts, and the documents, and they still stand by what they believe, you need to just let them go. Don't try to convince them anymore. Just let them go. Find the people that are really seeking the truth. And also, I believe we are seed planters. You know, I've had a lot of people over the years, I've told this stuff to, oh, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll get a phone call I get a phone call. Karen, did you see the Hunger Games? No, I don't go to movies. It's all about what you told us. It's exactly what you told us about. So if I had not have planted the seed with this particular person, they would have never picked it up when they saw the movie The Hunger Games. My daughter, one year it was my birthday. What do you want for your birthday? I was in New Jersey at the time. I said, I have a very good friend that's doing a presentation on Agenda 21. I want you to come with me. She did. She sat through the whole thing.
That's what it's like to be in Karen world.
Okay. She sat through the whole thing. She was going to college at the time at Rutgers, and she's sitting in a class. And this guy, a professor, says something, and my daughter says, that's Agenda 21. And the guy said, what is Agenda 21? And he goes, you know what? He said, you come back next week. I want you to do a presentation on Agenda 21. Now there's a class of 80 students. So she calls me up. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know anything about it that I can blah, blah, blah. So I pull together all kinds of information, send her out a box. She does her presentation. The professor says, what I want you to do now, this class, I want you to take this information and I want you to do that. Of course, this was quite a few years ago. The professors wouldn't do it. They would have just given her an F and flunked her today. But he wanted the class to then go out and do its own research and come back and share. So this is also a very important part of what we do is speak truth to people. They may not believe you right when you're talking to them, but something's going to happen in their life and they go, whoa, wait a minute. And if you had not have planted that seed, they would have never seen it. They would have never recognized it. So don't be so hell-bent on changing people's minds. Just plant seeds.
Right.
And that's why I respect you, Karen. I mean, and by the way, Karen, what is your salary? Like, what do you get paid to do all this research?
I wish I had back the money I spent out of my own pocketbook.
I told you she'd say something like that.
Yeah. No, even when I ran for commissioner, I took absolutely not one penny. I paid for everything myself because I was not going to be indebted to anybody for anything. So,
Well, Karen, in a life of everybody needs instant gratification, there is a lack of people willing to do things, plant trees for the tree they may never see type poetic scenario there. What is it? I'll plant the seeds. I'll gladly plant the seeds for a tree that I'll never be able to sit under to have the shade of myself. And, that's a very lacking situation, but so important that there are people like you. And it's one of the things I think we like to try and do here at the podcast too. I know it falls on deaf ears sometimes, even our topics maybe. Or people just kind of want to go, oh, it's too heavy or it's too this or it's too that. But if they listen to any of it for a while at all, maybe some of it got in their head, because this isn't the podcast about being right or, oh my God, this is a podcast about conversations that really seem important. And we've not been having a lot of them. There's a huge void in the things that people talk about anymore,
Right.
And they tend to just talk about the last thing they were told to talk about through the propaganda machine, which is the news or, the culture ebb and flow of social media. And it's all a bunch of brainwashing stuff, So we like to think we're going to go ahead and get some topics up in here that really you should have dinner while you take out your dog. That's awesome. We get to go out. Look at that. Oh my God, he's so cute.
The 2 pound, he weighs 2 pounds, and he just woke up from his nap. And
what a perfect situation.
So,
what a perfect timing, actually.
Yes,
but this is what it is.
Old.
Dogs. We got to have dogs. This is the perfect way to wrap this up.
Okay, come on, baby. Yeah, it's pouring rain out here too.
Oh no!
I
can't tell that it's raining.
Yeah, it's pouring rain. My computer's all wet. But
oh my
God! For that little break, but when he wakes up, he has to go.
Of course he does.
Boy.
That's
This is my
awesome.
little, this is my Valentine, my little baby
Oh,
Valentine. Pretty
Aw.
boy. Come here,
he's so
Nina.
sweet. That was
You can
great.
cut this out of the video. This is my
We,
other little baby.
oh,
Aw.
I
We
love
love it.
them. I love them.
Yes.
All dogs welcome here. Are you kidding
That's
me?
right. That's right.
Oh gosh, I wish,
Karen, you've been such a blessing to us today.
Yes. Yeah.
Such a
I'm sorry if
blessing.
we got into the weeds at times, but there's so much going on right now, and it's all interrelated. It's
Yes.
all interrelated.
It really is. It really is.
Uh-huh.
And when you're a pattern seer, it's wow. We're quite the
Yes.
pattern we're weaving right now. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's very busy. So if people can just not get all overwhelmed, but just kind of take a breath and just kind of look at your local environment a little closer, And honestly, it matters who's raising your kids with the materials. And I'm not speaking just about a teacher. I'm talking about a system. What are they doing, and have a say and get in there. And you can't change everything about it, but you can help bring new things on board, new clubs, new this, new that. You can at least know what they're up to. And the pushback sometimes on doing seemingly innocent things should tell you a lot as well, because they tend to really try and shut out, good ideas. And if there's any place that's a good starting place, it's having to go through a personal experience where it's just like, I just tried to start a chess club at my school, right? Next thing I know, I'm starting to feel like an idiot. I mean, those are things that are just like, why should that be hard? And I'm just using that as a pull out of the air example.
Right.
But I know people who have tried to get involved with the schools, and they don't like when people try and get too involved with the school.
But
You
if
just
you
got
want
to
to
keep
set up,
asking.
if you want to set up a grooming club, they just had a big thing in Hamilton County, in Chattanooga. Again, the library there had a bunch of whatevers running classes for little children, and their parents were there on, it's okay to be gay and it's okay to be transgender and blah blah blah. Little kids should not be even thinking about this crazy stuff. And these were little kids. These were not high
Yeah.
school kids. I mean,
When it's little
I don't.
kids, yeah, it's
Yep,
nothing but grooming. Yeah,
yep, yep.
I
And
agree.
they're
Right.
doing it in the libraries. You have to really be cognizant of what's going on in your libraries. Really, they
Mhm.
are set up for this stuff.
Regardless of anyone's belief or where they're at and what they hold dear, no child, I feel so passionately about this, and I will be preaching this till the day I die.
Mhm.
No child should be educated or exposed or sexualized, like to sexual things and sexualized in
Mhm.
any sort of way. I'm not saying that you don't teach your children at the right times about certain things as parents
Correct.
in the home, but exposing children to anything that is sexual in nature,
Mhm.
children, they're not ready for it. They can't understand it. They are not
Mhm.
equipped for it. It's not time. So the
Mhm.
fact that all of this is being done under the guise of education and awareness and preparing and inclusivity, and we're talking about children who don't have sex, don't know what sex is, or shouldn't know what sex is. Their bodies are not matured to that, not ready to handle that. Their brains, they can't. We're talking about children, babies. This is not a time to expose them to sexual things. And this is the problem. And this is why they start it so young. When you talk about
Mhm.
grooming, Karen, that's exactly what it is. This is not about loving everyone and being inclusive. And this has nothing to do with that. This has to
Mhm.
do with sexualizing children, sexualizing society to such a way that goes back to that total depravity that you were
Mhm.
talking about earlier.
Mhm. 100%. I'll die on that sword. And anybody wants to argue with me, I got to look at sideways and just go, who are you right now about children?
Yeah, well,
Because
Yeah.
it
I have currently 8 great grandchildren, and 2 of them live in New Jersey, and I was bound and determined. They were the first 2 great grandchildren I had. I was bound and determined, as you know, Lori, there was no way these kids were going to public school. I said, if I had to scrub toilets in McDonald's to pay for it, these kids were not going to go to public school. And I living in Tennessee and they're in New Jersey, I could not homeschool them, which I would have done if I lived in New Jersey. But we went around to, I talked to my granddaughter and I said, she says, oh no, me mom, you know more about this than I do. Whatever you recommend, I know it'll be the best for the kids. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So we went around to, all the private schools. I had a checklist. Do you teach cursive writing? Do you teach phonics for reading, not combination phonics and whole word and blah, 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 pure 100% phonics? I had a whole checklist and I found one school and
Wow.
one school that met all of my requirements. It's a very small Christian school. They're taught the Bible every day. They don't check them for vaccine status, nothing. They teach Abeka, which is a homeschool course, Abeka.
Mm-hmm.
And they do phonics. There's no computers until 5th grade. I mean, just everything. Oh, they teach cursive writing, everything, all back to the basics. And these kids, they love this school. And the only problem is it only goes to 8th grade. So we have to figure out what we're going to do with them once they get into 9th grade, which the boy is he'll be going into 7th grade next year. So, of course, I'm looking at Freedom Project Academy or, I don't know, some kind of homeschool program that he can do, on the computer with a live teacher that teaches classical education, which Freedom Project Academy does do. But public school is out of the question. It's just totally out of the question. I'll bring him to Tennessee and put him in a Christian high school. So, but
I mean, it's, classical education's where it's at, but we've been told it's archaic, just like classical architecture is a thing of the past, and it's just ruining everything, so
public school is not, it's just not, and a lot of private schools are not on the up and up either. So.
No, exactly. And they've been designed this way, it's a sad state of affairs, but this is where we find ourselves. I've always said, our woes come from not the government in as so much as the government that has made sure that the citizenry doesn't know anything. And this is exactly where we find ourselves, because they can't argue with what they don't know, and they can't push back against what they don't know. And so we get clowns that run.
Well, if you do some research on the Prussian education model, that's exactly what we have. And that is exactly what Horace Mann brought to the United States, was the Prussian model of education. And just go look it up and you go, oh my, it's exactly what we're seeing today. It's attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, obedience, it's not about reading, writing, and arithmetic.
And towns have streets named after this clown.
What's that?
People name streets after this guy.
Oh yeah, the wonderful father of education. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But look at the founders. Our founders were educated at the kitchen table. They were not, so, and they're, I think, some of the most brilliant minds that ever existed.
Well, I mean, you just look at the stuff that was being built. I'm big on the architecture thing right now because I want to do a podcast about that. But I mean, go back thousands of years. Like, I don't know. We just don't have the same level of creativity and ingenuity, but we have more tools, but it it's not lining up at all.
Well, go to places like Italy. The United States is only 250 years old, but you go to places like Italy that you've got buildings that are 1,000 years old, and look at the detail and the beauty of these buildings. And you look at it and you go, how the heck did they do this? They didn't have tools. They didn't have I just found it absolutely amazing when I went there to look at the churches and the buildings, and these things were built ages and ages and ages ago, before they even had electricity, let alone,
Right.
what we
We
got
got
today.
bridges that were built 75 years ago that are collapsing. And I mean, you could say the same thing for writing. If you read literature from back in the whatever, as old as you can find
Yeah.
it, even up to it's unbelievable how the vernacular has changed. Like you can't. I'm reading Willa Cather right now, and she wrote, stuff in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. I've had to use a dictionary several times because of words she used that we just don't use, and she and the amount of words and her descriptive words are so beautiful. And we have fallen into we have just cut off words. We
And
live
a lot,
on
yeah.
slang.
and a lot of
Yeah.
words back then meant something totally different than what they mean today, too. So if you look at,
Yeah.
there are words like, gay. Gay years ago used to mean a happy-go-lucky, whatever. Gay today means something different. So it's just, a lot of words have changed their meanings over the decades.
Well, it's just I'm just saying that before people went to public or system schooling, and to think that they're sending people for 13 years is just unbearable. And
Yeah.
if you read literature today versus literature 100 years ago, people today could not read that.
Well, and now, like we had our recent episode, Lauri, we've got all these kids graduating from high school who can't read, going into
Nope.
college, can't read. So it proves your
They don't
point
want them
right
to
there.
read. They don't want them to be able to read, because if you can read, you can figure out a whole lot. If you
You
this
can
was
learn
the whole thing with
anything.
this whole. But this is the whole thing when they implemented whole word reading, where they were not doing phonics. They were teaching kids to recognize whole words. So
Right.
what happens
Memorization, basically.
but when a child would pick up a book, if they would hit a word that they had not memorized, they couldn't move forward and they
Yep.
couldn't comprehend what they were reading. This was all by design. So what happened
Of course.
we got generations of kids who hate reading, and they hate it because they can't do it. And, they don't have the ability to sound a word out using phonics. So they get to these words and they're like, I don't, it's like, it may as well be written in Chinese because they have no clue. So now we've actually killed the love of reading in our children. And what Common Core, Common Core is everything is little excerpts and, all the great literature of the past. Oh, heck, that's just, our kids don't need to read that. And they need to be able to read government documents. So,
Yeah. And this is
yeah.
why. So this is the full circle of this conversation to bring the point of we find ourselves exactly where they have pushed us to be. And you can't, people won't even try. And typically the only way people will argue with you now on something, whether it's constitutional, this, that, and the other thing, is only based off of, by and large, a knee-jerk response to their team, and their level of argumentative powers only reaches as far back as what they've been told to say through the media of their choice, or through their echo chambers of their social media algorithms. And so once they're done there, they just go straight to name calling and really being ugly, because they're lost. They don't have a foundation that they're standing on.
They have no arguments, right? They can't.
Yeah.
They can't come back at you with their own facts.
They're just mimicking.
I say to people, you can have your own opinion, but you cannot have your own facts. That's it. You're basing what you're saying on your opinion. Tell me the facts that back up what you're saying, and then I'll listen to you.
Yeah. And that's where this level of stupidity is. And it's basically Operation Brainwashing complete, and it's just kind of where we find ourselves. But I agree about,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just
I was
going
just
to
going to say
say,
the other day, there was a big thing going around social media where Barbara Streisand said that we would be better off if all the Somalis were deported and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and there was like all these people, oh my God, I can't believe she said, I said, are you kidding me? There is nobody more left of left than Barbara Streisand. Do you really believe she said this? Really? Like how? No. So I went out and I researched it. She didn't say it. It was an AI generated post
Mhm.
video. And I
Yep.
said, you're so stupid. You know that this woman is as left can be, but you're ready to believe that she sat there and said that we would be better off if every Somali was deported. Like,
Because you're trying to make
really?
your point, because you're so attached to your
Whatever.
point. It has nothing
Oh,
to do with the Somal. And by the way, you know that AI can lie, right? I mean, is this a
oh
news flash
yeah.
people aren't getting yet? It's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
like the Grok thing. Oh, you mean Grok
It's
is
just
like
like
knows
the
everything?
Grok.
Oh,
Oh yeah, Grok said it, so
wow.
it's
I
gonna
know
be
Elon says
totally.
Grok knows everything, but Elon
Yeah.
don't know everything. So how about that? Grok.
No.
What a
So
grok.
what a
That's a
Wow.
Grok of
good word.
rock.
I
What a
know. He
Yeah.
Grok
should
of
have
What a
just
rock.
named it
grok.
Croc.
What a grok. I love
What a
it.
Grok. That's gonna be our new. That's gonna be our
What
new
a
thing. What a
grok. Yeah.
Grok.
There you
It is a
go.
croc. Elon's croc. All right, we digress. Oh
And
my gosh.
well,
Well, I'm going to
Uh,
wrap it up, kids. Sarah, you got anything?
okay.
no, just thank you so much, Karen. I think that you've really parsed all of this out so well for our listeners and our viewers.
I
And
hope
for
so.
you have, and I know that there's going to be people coming into this that are already familiar with some of this or well versed in it, and people who've not heard any of this. And I think that what has been said on the show today has been a great starting point or continuing point for anyone, no matter where they're at in this and from this realm of information. So thank you so much for all of
Right. And
this.
this is like you just alluded, this is only the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's there's so much more to it. But if you can get a grasp and understand just this much, you'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to kind of have, look closer. This stuff isn't something that just keeps happening somewhere else. You need to have the eyes to see of things. That way, you know what you can say no to. I think saying no is something that needs to come into fashion. But if people don't hear the other side or know to look for the things, or they're just still falling prey to thinking that everybody official is not dishonest.
Oh gosh.
Who
Yeah,
is that
no.
at this point? I don't understand. But you know, um, just look, maybe this will give you eyes to kind of help see some of this stuff for yourself. And if you know farmers, if you know this or that, or just look at the job market, I mean, all this stuff is intertwined. And
Mhm.
it's just important that you kind of just shift your point of view once in a while so that you know how to respond when things seem to be ramping up, and watch what your state's doing, watch what your county's doing. That's just really important, because right now, most of the time, they're having meetings with not that many people there. They're just,
Oh yeah, that's
there's no
true.
oversight by the citizenry. And then, the places when they do get ramped up and stuff, they try and silence you. You'll see a lot. You'll learn a lot. Try signing up
Yep.
because you want to speak at the city council meeting or whatever, and you'll
Yeah,
live it
you
firsthand.
get yeah, you get 3 minutes and you can only talk about what's on the agenda. You can't bring anything else aside from what's on the agenda, and you've got 3 minutes. Now, when I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about my time as a commissioner, but the one county that I lived in at the time and was a commissioner, I have to give them credit for the fact that you could talk as long as you wanted, as long as you were respectful, and you could talk about anything. But I know a lot of school boards and city councils and county commissions across the state of Tennessee, 3 minutes, and you can
Yep.
only talk about an issue that's on the current agenda, which
And
is
just
just
think
a
about
way
that.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, that's to shut you down. That's to shut you
Just
down. They don't want to
just
hear,
think
yeah.
about that. They're there to serve you, and you should be able to bring things to their attention that they might not even know about. They should be welcoming things. They can dismiss it if somebody
Yep.
was crazy, but you should, it's a reciprocal situation, and they serve you. And so to be told
Mhm.
that you can only talk about what they're talking about that evening is just so 1984. I can't take it. It's such a silencing maneuver, bona fide, and it's just,
Mhm.
so go, and if you don't know that, see what it's like, just go, have fun with it, tailgate that, I don't know,
Yeah.
just get involved maybe a little bit so that you have eyes to see this stuff just a little bit more, and it's going to help you filter out so much of the noise that's coming through our phones and everything. So Karen, I
Right.
can't thank you enough. This was
Thank
a
you.
wonderful presentation, and it's so good to see your beautiful face. I love you so much,
Thank you.
and
Same here.
hopefully,
We had a
hopefully
lot of fun together.
we did. We got up to it,
Yep.
didn't we?
Yep.
and
We were
and
the
I missed that.
dynamic duo. The
Yeah,
dynamic
you
duo.
made it. You made it beyond bearable. You made it fun. We lived in a state of shock and awe most of the time. But we together, and
we're still in that state of shock and awe.
it's true. But I just,
Yeah.
we'd end up laughing at just some of the audacity, and I would just always laugh at you because you're just awesome. And I was just like, you're just like watching a
Gosh.
beast. You're like getting to watch your hero, going up to bat. And so
Aw.
I value you and your research and everything you stand for so very much in your heart. So I know that
Thank
whatever
you.
you believe, you go after, and there needs to be more Karens in the world. So stop.
Oh, thank you. It was nice
All
to
right, honey.
meet Sarah. Finally.
Nice to meet
Absolutely.
you.
Good, Joe. And
Bye-bye.
and yeah, take care of yourself, and find us on the socials out there, and be sure and subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. I need a drink of water or something. All right, ladies and gents, we're rolling out. There it is. Sarah, I can't get
Bye,
out
the
of here.
two broads.
The two Sarah, can you get us out?
I got us out. All right. We'll see you guys
Thanks,
later.
babe.
Catch us next time.